The theory of moral sentiments, written by renowned Scottish philosopher Adam Smith in 1759, is a seminal work in the field of moral philosophy that explores the nature of morality and the principles that govern human behavior. In this book, Smith argues that our moral judgments are not solely based on reason, but are also influenced by our emotions and our ability to sympathize with others. He introduces key concepts such as sympathy, propriety, the impartial spectator, and the role of virtue in shaping our moral sentiments. Smith's ideas have had a significant impact on subsequent moral philosophy and continue to be widely studied and debated today. Part 1. The foundation of moral sentiments. The concept of sympathy is central to Smith's moral philosophy. Smith defines sympathy as the ability to imagine ourselves in the situation of another person and to feel what they feel. This allows us to understand and share the emotions of others, even if we have not experienced the same situation ourselves. Sympathy enables us to extend our concern beyond our own immediate interests and to consider the feelings and well-being of others. When we witness someone in pain or distress, such as a child who has fallen and hurt themselves, we naturally imagine how we would feel in their situation. This leads us to experience a sense of compassion and concern for their well-being, even though we are not directly experiencing the pain ourselves. Our ability to sympathize with the child's distress motivates us to offer comfort and assistance. Smith illustrates the concept of sympathy with the metaphor of a mirror. Just as a mirror reflects our own image back to us, sympathy allows us to see ourselves in the situation of others. It enables us to reflect on how we would feel and react in similar circumstances, thereby fostering a sense of understanding and connection with others. Smith argues that our moral judgments are based on the principle of propriety. Propriety refers to the idea that actions are deemed right or wrong, depending on their appropriateness or suitability in a given situation. We judge the propriety of an action by considering how an impartial spectator would view it. The impartial spectator is an imagined third party who objectively assesses the situation without personal biases or interests. Consider a scenario where an individual is faced with the choice of whether to lie, to protect a friend's feelings, or to tell the truth and risk hurting them. In evaluating the propriety of each action, we might imagine how an impartial observer would view the situation. Would they deem the lie to be appropriate given the circumstances, or would they consider honesty to be the more suitable course of action? Smith likens the principle of propriety to a court of law. Just as a judge must set aside personal biases and judge a case based on the evidence presented, we must strive to assess the propriety of actions from an impartial and objective standpoint. By considering the perspective of an unbiased spectator, we can make more sound and justified moral judgments. Part 2. Moral sentiments and virtue. Smith introduces the concept of merit and demerit in relation to our moral judgments. Merit refers to the quality of deserving praise or reward, while demerit refers to the quality of deserving blame or punishment. Smith argues that we judge actions to be meritorious or demeritorious based on the motives behind them rather than solely on their consequences. An action is considered meritorious if it is motivated by good intentions, even if it fails to achieve the intended outcome. Conversely, an action is deemed demeritorious if it is motivated by ill intentions, even if it inadvertently leads to a positive result. Imagine a scenario where a person attempts to rescue a child from a burning building, but tragically fails to save them. Despite the unfortunate outcome, we would still consider the person's actions to be meritorious because they were motivated by the noble intention of saving the child's life. The merit lies in the person's willingness to put themselves at risk for the sake of another, regardless of the result. Smith illustrates the concept of merit and demerit with the metaphor of a seed. Just as a seed contains the potential for growth and development, the motives behind our actions hold the potential for moral worth. Even if the seed does not ultimately sprout or bear fruit, its inherent potential for growth is still recognized and appreciated. Smith emphasizes the importance of self-command in moral conduct. Self-command refers to the ability to regulate one's own emotions and desires in order to act in accordance with moral principles. It involves exercising restraint and discipline over our passions and impulses, allowing us to make rational and virtuous choices. Smith argues that self-command is essential for maintaining social harmony and for living a morally upright life. Consider a situation where an individual is tempted to engage in an act of revenge against someone who has wronged them. The desire for retribution may be strong, but self-command enables the individual to step back, consider the consequences of their actions, and choose a more measured and appropriate response. By exercising self-command, they can avoid being driven by fleeting emotions and instead act in a manner that aligns with their moral principles. Smith compares the exercise of self-command to that of a skilled navigator steering a ship through turbulent waters. Just as the navigator must remain steady and focused, constantly adjusting their course to navigate safely, individuals must exercise self-command to steer their moral compass and make sound decisions in the face of challenges and temptations. Part 3. The influence of custom and fashion. Smith recognizes the influence of custom and fashion on our moral sentiments. While our moral judgments are guided by universal principles, Smith acknowledges that they are also shaped by the customs and fashions of the society in which we live. What is considered morally acceptable or praiseworthy in one culture may differ from another. These societal norms and expectations can influence our perceptions of right and wrong, and they can evolve over time. Consider the changing attitudes towards same-sex relationships throughout history. In the past, many societies considered such relationships to be morally unacceptable and even criminal. However, as customs and attitudes have shifted over time, there has been a growing recognition and acceptance of the rights and dignity of LGBTQ+ individuals. This change in moral sentiment demonstrates how societal norms can shape and reshape our moral judgments. Smith likens the influence of custom and fashion on our moral sentiments to a river. Just as a river can alter its course over time, gradually shaping the landscape through which it flows, our moral judgments can be molded and redirected by the prevailing customs and fashions of our society. While the underlying principles of morality remain constant, like the laws of physics that govern the river's flow, the specific manifestations of those principles can adapt and change in response to societal norms. Part 4. The impartial spectator and moral reflection. Smith introduces the concept of the impartial spectator as a means of moral self-evaluation. The impartial spectator is an imagined third party who objectively assesses our actions and motives from a neutral standpoint. By adopting the perspective of the impartial spectator, we can step back from our own biases and self-interest and evaluate our conduct more objectively. This process of moral self-reflection helps us to align our actions with moral principles and to strive for impartiality in our judgments. Imagine a scenario where an individual is tempted to take credit for a colleague's work to gain recognition and advancement in their career. By mentally stepping into the role of an impartial spectator, the individual can ask themselves how an unbiased observer would view their actions. Would the impartial spectator deem it fair and honest to claim credit for someone else's efforts? This self-reflection can help the individual recognize the moral implications of their choice and guide them towards a more ethical course of action. Smith compares the impartial spectator to a mirror that reflects our own conduct back to us. Just as a mirror provides an objective image of our physical appearance, the impartial spectator serves as a mental mirror that allows us to see ourselves and our actions from a detached and unbiased perspective. By regularly engaging in this process of moral self-reflection, we can gain greater clarity and insight into the morality of our choices and behaviors. Smith argues that the development of conscience is shaped by our interactions with others. Conscience, according to Smith, is not an innate or pre-existing faculty, but rather develops over time through our social interactions and experiences. As we engage with others and navigate the complexities of social life, we internalize the moral standards and expectations of our society. We learn from the praise and blame we receive, as well as from observing the consequences of our actions on others. Consider a child who initially struggles with the concept of sharing. Through repeated interactions with peers and adults, the child begins to understand the importance of fairness and the positive reactions they receive when they share their toys. Over time, the child internalizes these external feedbacks and develops an internal sense of conscience that guides their behavior, even in the absence of external reinforcement. Smith likens the development of conscience to a compass that helps navigate the moral landscape. Just as a compass points towards a fixed direction, our conscience serves as an internal guide that helps us discern right from wrong. However, like a compass, our conscience is not innate, but must be calibrated through our experiences and interactions with others. As we navigate the social world and learn from the feedback we receive, our conscience becomes more finely tuned and reliable in guiding our moral choices. Part 5. Virtue and Moral Character. Smith identifies three main categories of virtues: prudence, justice, and beneficence. Prudence refers to the careful consideration of one's own well-being and the long-term consequences of one's actions. Justice involves respecting the rights and dignity of others, fulfilling one's obligations, and refraining from causing harm or injury. Beneficence goes beyond the mere avoidance of harm and actively seeks to promote the happiness and well-being of others through acts of kindness, generosity, and compassion. Consider an individual who embodies all three virtues. In their personal life, they exercise prudence by making responsible financial decisions, taking care of their health, and planning for the future. In their professional life, they demonstrate justice by treating their colleagues and clients with fairness, honesty, and respect, never taking advantage of others for personal gain. Beyond their immediate circle, they exhibit beneficence by volunteering their time and resources to support charitable causes and assist those in need. Smith compares the three virtues to the essential components of a well-functioning society. Prudence is like the foundation of a building, providing stability and security for individuals and families. Justice is like the walls and roof, ensuring that everyone's rights and interests are protected and that society operates on principles of fairness and equity. Beneficence is like the furnishings and decorations that make a building a comfortable and pleasant place to live, adding beauty and meaning to our collective existence. Smith emphasizes the role of virtue in promoting individual and societal well-being. Virtuous behavior, according to Smith, not only benefits others but also contributes to our own happiness and fulfillment. By cultivating virtues such as prudence, justice, and beneficence, we create a harmonious and thriving society in which individuals can flourish. Moreover, living a life of virtue helps us to develop a strong moral character and to find meaning and purpose in our existence. Imagine a community where the majority of individuals consistently demonstrate virtuous behavior. In this community, people act with integrity, treat each other with kindness and respect, and work together for the common good. As a result, there is a strong sense of trust, cooperation, and mutual support among community members. Individuals feel secure in their relationships and are able to pursue their goals and aspirations without fear of exploitation or harm. The community as a whole benefits from a higher quality of life, with reduced crime, greater social cohesion, and a shared sense of purpose. Smith likens the cultivation of virtue to the tending of a garden. Just as a garden requires regular care, attention, and nurturing to thrive, our moral character requires ongoing effort and practice to develop and maintain. By consistently making virtuous choices, we strengthen our moral muscles and create a flourishing inner landscape. Just as a well-tended garden yields beauty, fragrance, and nourishment, a life rooted in virtue brings forth the fruits of happiness, fulfillment, and positive impact on the world around us. Part 6. Moral Philosophy and the Pursuit of Wisdom. Smith examines different systems of moral philosophy and their approaches to understanding morality. Throughout history, various moral philosophers have proposed different frameworks for understanding the nature of morality and the principles that should guide human behavior. Some systems emphasize the importance of adhering to rules and duties, while others focus on the consequences of actions or the cultivation of virtuous character traits. Smith critically analyzes these different approaches, highlighting their strengths and limitations in capturing the complexity of moral life. One prominent example Smith discusses is the moral philosophy of the Stoics. The Stoics emphasized the importance of living in accordance with reason and cultivating a sense of detachment from external circumstances. They believed that true happiness and virtue could be attained by mastering one's emotions and accepting one's fate with equanimity. While Smith acknowledges the value of Stoic principles such as self-discipline and fortitude, he argues that an exclusive focus on reason can lead to a neglect of the important role that emotions and sentiments play in shaping our moral judgments and actions. Smith compares the pursuit of moral wisdom to the process of map-making. Each moral philosopher, like a cartographer, attempts to create a map of the moral landscape, highlighting the key features, boundaries, and paths to navigate it. However, just as no single map can capture every detail and nuance of a complex terrain, no single moral philosophy can provide a complete and definitive account of morality. By studying and comparing different moral frameworks, we can gain a more comprehensive understanding of the moral world and develop our own internal compass to guide us through its intricacies. Smith argues for a balanced approach to moral philosophy that recognizes the importance of both reason and sentiment. While Smith acknowledges the value of rational reflection and the pursuit of moral principles, he also emphasizes the crucial role that emotions and sentiments play in our moral lives. Our capacity for sympathy, empathy, and compassion is what allows us to connect with others and to appreciate the moral significance of our actions. A purely rational approach to morality, devoid of emotional engagement, can lead to a dry and lifeless understanding of right and wrong. Consider a situation where a friend is going through a difficult time, such as the loss of a loved one. A purely rational approach to morality might dictate that we have a duty to offer support and condolences, but it may lack the emotional depth and authenticity that true compassion requires. By allowing ourselves to empathize with our friend's pain, to feel their sorrow as if it were our own, we can offer a more genuine and heartfelt response. Our emotional engagement adds a layer of moral significance to our actions that goes beyond mere duty or obligation. Smith compares the balance of reason and sentiment in moral philosophy to the balance of light and shadow in a painting. Just as a painting requires both the brightness of light and the depth of shadow to create a sense of form and dimensionality, our moral understanding requires both the clarity of reason and the richness of emotion. An overemphasis on either aspect can result in a distorted or incomplete picture. By recognizing the complementary roles of reason and sentiment, we can develop a more nuanced and authentic approach to moral living. The theory of moral sentiments is a profound and insightful exploration of the nature of morality and the principles that shape our moral judgments and behaviors. Through his analysis of concepts such as sympathy, propriety, virtue, and the impartial spectator, Adam Smith provides a rich and nuanced understanding of the complex tapestry of human moral life. Smith's emphasis on the role of emotions and sentiments in morality, alongside the importance of reason and rational reflection, offers a balanced and comprehensive perspective. He recognizes that our moral judgments are not solely the product of abstract principles, but are deeply rooted in our capacity for empathy, compassion, and shared understanding. Moreover, Smith's insights into the influence of societal norms, customs, and fashions on our moral sentiments highlight the dynamic and contextual nature of morality. While there may be universal principles that underlie our moral judgments, the specific manifestations of those principles are shaped by the social and cultural contexts in which we live. The theory of moral sentiments invites us to engage in ongoing moral reflection, both individually and collectively, by cultivating the virtues of prudence, justice, and beneficence, and by striving to view our actions through the lens of an impartial spectator. We can develop a more refined moral sensibility and contribute to the creation of a more just and compassionate society. Ultimately, Smith's work serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of moral philosophy in guiding our individual and societal choices. By grappling with the complex questions of right and wrong, and by seeking to understand the principles that shape our moral sentiments, we can develop the wisdom and discernment necessary to navigate the challenges of moral life. The theory of moral sentiments remains a timeless and thought-provoking work, as relevant today as it was when it was first published over 2.5 centuries ago. It encourages us to look beyond our narrow self-interest and to consider the broader implications of our actions on others and on society as a whole. By engaging with Smith's ideas and insights, we can deepen our understanding of morality and work towards building a more ethical and harmonious world.